What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Patros Podcast, where we are embracing healthy masculinity, and 'tis the season where we worship Jesus together in a very special way, where we acknowledge his, just coming down as a baby, as baby Jesus. But of course, with this season comes a lot of different things we've covered already. Some of that, which is, exhaustion, budgeting. So for some people, the pain of the season. For others, the excitement. For some of us, Jeff and I, peppermint and mocha from Starbucks is
Get you
is
some.
is a is a must-have. Um, but today, what we definitely want to be diving into, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself by bringing it up, but maybe we just dive into it this time, is, how do we manage as men the life is already hard. There's already a lot of things going on, and we don't want to make it seem like life is always hard, but it does impact us in such a way where then many men across the globe really struggle with their temper. They struggle with, how do I manage my frustration and not take it out on my family during the holidays, whether they're the pain point or not. So, Jeff, I don't know if you want to start and just let us know, like, what are ways that you've been able to either help men through this type of an issue? And I feel like it's amplified during the holidays.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, Alan, good to be back with you.
Sorry, I'm just jumping into it
I,
because
I
I know we
I know
got
you're not. Well, and this
pressed
is
for
going to be a
time.
shorter. It's going to be a shorter podcast because Alan and I are on a time crunch. So it's going to
Yeah,
be a shorter podcast. But we did think it was important to talk about because we didn't get to it last time. Felt like no, we need to spend some time on it,
yeah,
which is like frustrations bubbling over, and in
yeah,
particular anger and a temper, and these are things that men deal with in proportion to women that is far greater. It's not to say that women don't get angry; they do. I'm going to share some stats here in a bit, but one of the reasons though is like I heard a pastor say this once in a sermon. It's always stuck with me. Is that typically when someone gets angry and they say something, right? Like or they do something, the
yeah,
the follow up to that is, oh, that's not me. That what I said then, that's not indicative of who I am. Or that, thing that I did, that's not the character that's not the real me. And what the pastor said is actually that is exactly the real you.
mm,
His point was that when we blow through the filter, we put a governor on, we put a filter on for everything. So we don't share what we
the
think
real
all the
you.
time.
That's good.
We don't do what we want to do all the time. Why? Part of it is like a human cultural like pressure to not just
For sure.
blow through that stuff. But some of it is good, right? It's practicing self-control. And so the thing that we want to say we don't, or the thing we want to do we don't, because we're like, no, that's not going to be honoring to Jesus. But a lot of times, his point was that people generally don't think about the fact that who you really are, though, apart from Christ, is that person who blows through the filter, who
Yeah.
blows your top, who loses your cool, who says that unkind thing. That is actually the real you.
Mm,
And I don't think people think of it that way. And so I
mm,
it changed my perspective and kind of how I viewed it because we are sinful creatures. We know that. And without the help of the Holy Spirit, we will do our baser instincts. Like we'll do whatever we feel. We'll sow to the flesh. Like the flesh
yeah.
is what dominates us, not the spirit. And I think when it comes to so like what stress reveals and what holiday stress can reveal is that which is already in our heart. And so that anger, that frustration, that stress, whatever it is, it's going on at work. Maybe it's with your spouse, maybe it's with your kids, maybe it's with whatever, like your aspirations, your goals, and you're not meeting them, whatever. Financial, a lot of it's financial. You will blow through that filter. You'll blow through the top. And that is only revealing. So the holiday stress has only revealed what's already in your heart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I thought it'd be good to chat through this because my guess is there's a lot of dudes out there who do struggle with anger, um, and it gets the best of them. And I say this from personal experience. When I was a kid, if you had to describe me, Alan, how would you describe me? I was just curious. Like, what are a
Like
couple like,
today,
yeah,
like
today, like
today.
what you
Well,
know of me?
Bro, I've had conversations with people where we've talked about not so gentle pastors. And,
Yeah.
and I've had to say, okay, if you came to Man Up and you asked every single employee, and because they were trying to say gentleness is a spectrum and is it really a thing? And I was like, if you went to Man Up and you were to ask every single employee, is Jeff Ford a strong leader, yet a gentle leader? Every single person, and I'd put money on this, every single person would say he is. He is very controlled. He is very caring. He's compassionate. They wouldn't say you're emotional, which is what throws people off. You're not an emotional guy, but yet you are extremely compassionate and understanding and gentle. Yet you still require things of people because the job still has to be the job. But you do so in a way that is very gentle and self-controlled.
So I was not fishing for compliments there, just so everybody knows. I did.
No. That's literally, I say that all the time just because, and Jeff knows, I keep it real. I'll also say the bad.
There's several bad. Hey, we can share the bad here. Like it's okay.
We don't have time though. We don't have time. I'm just kidding.
There's too many things.
No, but that's a fact. Is like people. That's not just me. That's how people see you. And this is me that I've been around long enough, honestly, to see how you treat people that have slighted you. Yeah. And I've seen that behind closed doors where you could be talking bad about them and you still lend grace.
Yeah. So thank you. And again, I wasn't fishing for compliments.
No, I know you weren't.
But what I was trying to get to is that because I was curious how you would describe me, and I so
like, now you get a raise, Alan.
huge Christmas bonus for Alan. But I was curious how you would describe me because I don't think, and I didn't know what words you would use, but what I am not is quick-tempered. Like I don't think that I am that now. But if you grew up with me, you would have said Jeff is quick-tempered.
Yeah.
Jeff loses his temper easily. Jeff can fly off the handle like.
You just gotta ask his brother.
Yes, you could ask Mike. You could ask Mike. Ask my sister. Ask my mom. They will tell you. So like, I would blow through that top because I'd let the stress get to me, and then I would just blow through it. Very selfish. Very like I would say narcissistic. I would say egotistical, and things didn't go my way. Like anger would boil up. And ultimately, and this is what's interesting because I'm going to talk about this article a little bit, but ultimately anger is how did he describe this? It was entitlement. And I thought that was such an interesting way to describe anger, that people who are angry are entitled people. Because the lack of self-control, the lack of consideration for another, they value their own, like, I deserve this over gentleness, over kindness, over benefit of the doubt, over, there's other people in the world. And I guess like part of this is why this topic is personal for me is because that is who I used to be, but I don't think that's who I am anymore. And that's why I asked you to describe me. Yeah. Because if you didn't know me growing up, you probably would not have any idea. And this to me is the power of Christ. And this is like, I didn't even know I was going to go this way with the podcast today, but I do want to say that the power of Christ can change people, and who you were yesterday does not have to define who you are in the future. Period. And for us to cancel people over something they did in the past, for us to cancel people over who we knew them to be when they were growing up. And, people will say, oh, well, he was like that as a kid, or, that's just how so-and-so acts. That's how this family acts. Or, once you're this, you're always this. Man, that is so antithetical to the gospel. Like, when my favorite verse in the Bible, 2 Corinthians 5:17, that we are new creations in Christ Jesus. The old has gone and the new has come. And people say you can't change, and I am here to tell you I am living proof. And knowing who I was as a kid, you talk to my sister, you'd be like, oh yeah, Jeff had a temper. Oh yeah, Jeff was angry. And now I'm not. And that's because of Jesus. There's no other reason for that except for Jesus. So when we think about why anger spikes at this time of year, a couple of things, and I'd love to hear you kind of comment on this and what you see, because I know you are also not an angry person. Uh, at least I don't see the anger.
That's Jesus. If you were to if you were to ask my cousins, if you were to ask my sister, if you ask my mom, she forgot all of it. But
Oh,
like there were plenty of times there's holes in the walls where we grew up, and that was all me because I just grew up with women around or cousins that we lived with. There's either holes in the walls, light switches that were broken from punching, or fights happening. So I was
no
very
way.
much an angry and violent young man.
Wow.
And if you were to ask some people, they would say they would have guessed that I would end up in jail one day.
Wow.
Yeah,
Because of your anger.
because of my anger. Yeah, because of my anger, my desire to be accepted into like a family, and so it was just like, yeah, like I would. Uh,
You like grieving what you didn't have?
I don't. There was no way to put it into words, so it would
Yeah.
come out right. So like,
Yeah.
anger, anger is a secondary emotion, right? So like, it's never the first emotion. So, out of grief, sadness, vulnerability, whatever those things are, anger is just what would come out. And so, I remember. I think I was 20, and I went back home, and we had a Thanksgiving, and this lady was just like losing it over where we parked our car because I think we accidentally parked in her spot. She's losing it, and I'm like a new person. My cousins still remember the old me,
Yeah.
and because I got saved, really truly saved around 17, and I remember I walk over to her car, and my cousin runs after me and grabs me, and he's like, bro, no, 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 no. And I was like, bro, I just want to have a conversation. And he was like, no, for real, bro, it's okay, just leave it. And I was like, no, I genuinely just want to talk. And then like to the point where he thought I was gonna be violent,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was like so thrown off, and I was like, oh, this is how much the gospel has changed me that my cousins don't even know
It's awesome.
which Allen they're dealing with. Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome. Uh, I love to hear that. So now, for you listening out there, here's two examples of former angry people who are no longer angry. And it's the power of the gospel, man. It's the testament of Jesus who brings
yeah,
peace, joy, love, and life into your hearts. And because you realize there's nothing to be angry about. The
yeah,
King has it all. He's forgiven you of your sins, and He loves you, and He's adopted you into His family. And so that place of belonging that I think, in large part, I was also, even though I had family,
yeah,
your earthly family can only do so much. There's a spiritual longing, something beyond what we can see that we do long for. And until we find it, we're constantly chasing,
yeah,
constantly, whether it's recognition or money or, accomplishment or whatever the case may be. So for me, I think that a lot of it had to do with that. But
mm,
a couple of things on anger. Well, let's just talk about anger first, because just 3 points to make here on this. I was reading a report that there was data collected in what these guys, some doctors, psychologists, they had what was called the Anger Project, and so it was 4 years in collecting data, and just three of their findings that that we can chat about. Number one is that men report getting angry more often than women. Now, I think we know that, but when you have the data to back it up, it's kind of nice. So, 60% of men report getting angry at least once per day.
mm,
20% say once a day, and 40% say multiple times a day. In comparison to, so 60% of men, in comparison to 38% of women reporting getting angry. Now, for a long time in psychology, they thought that it was like anger is universal emotion,
yeah,
that women and men experience it equally. It was just that women could control it better, right? Their
mm,
outward expressions. But what this research is finding is that no, actually, women just don't get angry as much.
mm.
Like men, like 33% we're getting
Now, what they
angry.
should do is a survey where the spouse writes it in for the other spouse.
Based on your knowledge of,
How often does your husband get angry? How often does your wife get angry?
it would be interesting to see. But so then
Yeah,
the
yeah.
second finding, which is kind of like common sense with this, is that men are suffering with more anger related consequences than women. But here, so obviously you would expect that.
For sure.
But here's where it was interesting. So when men get angry, they are more likely to, okay, get into a physical, verbal, or online fight, damage a relationship, damage property, drive dangerously or aggressively, or abuse a drug, right? Alcohol,
Yep.
drugs, nicotine, whatever. So when you think about this list, and they didn't have it for the women, which it would have been interesting. But when you think about that list, I'll put a test on you. I'll say them again, and you tell me which one of these are different. There's one of these that's different from the others distinctly, in as much as how it's manifested. Okay, so get into a physical, verbal, or online fight, damage a relationship, damage property, drive dangerously or aggressively, or abuse drugs. Of those, which one do you think is a little different than all the rest?
The abuse drugs because it's self-inflicting.
You nailed it. You nailed it. All of those other ones are something that happened to other people. So what this report is saying is that when men get angry, we hurt others. Right? Like more so than hurting ourselves. And I bet if you did a survey, I bet women hurt themselves more. If they had that piece of the data. I don't have it, but isn't that interesting though?
Statistically, women, when it comes to like, I don't know about self-harm, but I do know suicide attempts, women outpace men significantly.
Yeah.
Men just outpace women with success.
Success rates.
Yeah, because we're more violent when we do it. Yeah.
But like when you think about like even the property one, you're doing something. It's physical property. You get in an accident or road rage, right? You're slamming you're whatever on the car. You're destroying the car because you want to destroy the person.
Yeah, when I see road ragers, I often think like, oh, this guy is like, I don't think woman. I just think this guy's going crazy right now. And then usually you're right.
Yeah, it usually is. So, but it was just interesting that we would want to hurt other people. And so I think like that needs to be like the psychology behind that, right? Like, why are we trying to hurt other people?
Yeah.
And maybe it goes back to our physical strength, like that, because that is a quality that God has given us over women, the testosterone that we have, like, because he's given us that, like we want to exert dominance and or use that trait that we have, like put it to good use, I guess. Like, well, I am strong, so why don't I just, use this strength to show people just how angry I am.
Yeah.
But it's, the drugs and alcohol, you're kind of doing that to yourself, all the other stuff. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And then the finding 3 was this, that not getting something I want is a major driver of male anger. And so the Anger Project asked about 3 primary types of provocations. And then they broke down the percentage by gender about like how likely is this to make you angry. So the first one is when I am treated poorly, how likely is that to make you angry? Well, 53% of men said yes, it would make me angry. 51% of women said it would make me angry. So pretty even, right? When I experience or witness injustice. Now, for you and I, this would make us angry. When we see something that's unjust, like that gets me going. Like there's not much that gets me going. That does.
Yeah.
43% of men and 49% of women. So a little more discrepancy there. 6 points. But when I can't get something I want, 45% of men say that makes them angry compared to only 33% of women. So that's a 12% gap, which is twice what the other one was and like 6 times as much as just if I'm treated poorly. So there's something here about what I can't get what I want. And this is where he says it's hard to interpret that data as anything other than entitlement. That's what this article is talking about. Is that I deserve this. I I should have this, and that to me is something that is telling about the selfish nature of our hearts. And I don't know if that has to do with testosterone either, but it's interesting that men feel more entitled than women, because
Yeah.
if you, and maybe this is just my sexist bias, I would have thought it was opposite. I would have thought more women felt entitled, and maybe that's
Mm,
because I think of like the liberal agenda as being led by women.
mm.
I don't mean this pejoratively if anybody's
For
listening.
sure,
It's
for
just
sure, for
like
sure.
as a liberal agenda, like with feminism and et cetera, that's kind of on the liberal side of things.
But it's not necessarily driven by anger. It's probably, I think theirs is driven by like perceived compassion and,
Right.
in a sense, yeah, justice. But the fringe are the ones that reveal the anger, and that's who are put on media. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but like I would have thought, I don't know, this idea of entitlement, I would have thought more women thought that they were entitled
Entitled.
than men.
Yeah. I
Did
think
do you think that or no?
yeah, I think that men, what we're entitled to is probably different, but maybe more often. So I think like there are things that women might feel entitled to that we're just like, that's like, I don't think you guys are entitled to, whatever. Like, I should have this because you have that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's like the WNBA conversation that's always prevalent is like, we feel entitled to this amount of money, even though we don't pull in the same viewership, we
Right.
don't perform the same things that you guys do skill wise, right?
Right.
So I get that on the entitlement side. But I think for men, it's like, well, I'm entitled to a certain level of respect from everybody
Hmm.
just because I'm a man, from
Hmm.
children, from women. Like, who are you to talk to me crazy right now? Like,
Yeah, like
I don't
I'm a
even know
man.
you.
Don't you know
Yeah,
that?
exactly. Like, not to step out of line around me because I'm a man. And so, like, I think that that's probably why it's more prevalent with men.
Well, and that's where that toxic masculinity comes into
Yeah.
play, right? Is that if men left to their own devices, masculinity is toxic in a lot of ways. Which is why we're here trying to redeem that on this podcast and talking about biblical masculinity, healthy masculinity.
Yeah.
And so I think about James, James 1, which we just went through as a team, but be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. There is a principle in Scripture for us as men that I would say exalts and puts on a not a pedestal, but like a place of virtue that we should esteem to have, which is patience.
Yeah.
And I think patience is something that we don't see in our culture because we live in that microwave generation, man. Like everything we
We
want
want it now.
instantaneous. We want it now. And so, why anger can sometimes spike, and we see that temper during the holiday season. I think a lot of it comes around entitlement. But so it's an interesting theory because when I read that, I would not have thought about entitlement as a
Yeah.
word I would have used to describe why men are angry. But now I'm kind of like exploring that with you right now.
Yeah.
But why anger spikes? So just I'm going to read all these and then maybe you can just comment on what you see and
Okay.
in men, in yourself, and in other men. Number one, overcommitment, right? Just too much going on. Two, pressure to perform, whether it's financially, gifts, whatever. It could be the job, right? Like I've got end of year quota I've got to make or whatever. Family expectations, which is an interesting one. Old unresolved tension. So you think about things that happen during the holiday season, and then the holiday season comes back, and we got that PTSD.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fatigue, which we had talked about last week in our podcast, and then this one, feeling underappreciated. And
Yep.
my guess is that's one that every man,
Feels.
if he's honest, probably struggles with.
Yeah. 100%. I think And I think it's they stack so unhealthily, but they stack like
Yeah.
that unresolved tension is typically the boy in you that missed something and still wants it and needs it, and you're trying to fulfill those things throughout, your manhood. And so whether that was affirmation you didn't get but now you get it at work, but you don't get it at home the way you want it or whatever, then you feel unappreciated on top of that. So that little boy's getting even more like suffocated,
Yeah.
and then you're tired, which makes you not resilient. Yeah. So 100%. I think that all of those, including the fact that like if you're not rooted in Christ and see that your worth isn't in the affirmation of man, you're gonna struggle with all of those.
Yeah, I think a big one around this time of year is family expectations. And I would say not even just this time of year. This time of year is exacerbated because family comes in, family that you don't normally see, family that, right? But in general, expectations, I think, are the primary driver of all broken relationships.
Mm.
So it is a mismanagement of expectations that leads
Oh
to
my gosh.
brokenness
Yeah.
in relationships,
And
right?
if you're in families that don't worship Jesus, that's even harder because you don't have a common ground of why reconciliation is important.
Yeah, and you'll just, but I've seen it. Like I've seen it in my
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
family. They're believers. Everybody's a believer
Sure,
in my
sure.
family. In my wife's family, I've seen how the expectations are there. And I'll give a real small like I'll give an example because it's real life for me. But this kind of example will I think relate to everybody. My mother-in-law, she's awesome. Like I love my mother-in-law. She is so helpful for everything with the kids, with the house. She's thoughtful. She's always making food for others. Like she's great with
Yeah.
elderly people. Like she's just a really thoughtful Christian woman. She was going to be a nun actually. That's what she wanted to do like early on. She ended up obviously getting married and everything, but
She has the same spiritual gifts as a nun, though.
yes, she does. But one of the tensions in our home is like for her, like cleanliness is next to godliness, right?
Mm,
So when your home is in order,
yeah.
it's cleaned, you don't have a mess, like that honors God because mess
Yeah.
equals chaos. God is he's not a God of chaos. He's a God of
Yeah.
order. Well, the kids' rooms are often messy.
Mm,
And part of that is just being kids, right?
yeah.
And I don't know of a kid who just on their own would have a perfectly spick and span room. But part of it is mom and dad don't really care too much if the
I feel
room is
that.
messy.
Yeah.
And it's not because our room is messy. It's not. It's just like, it's not that high of a priority.
Yeah.
Well, the expectation that grandma has is that the room would be kept, right?
Mm,
Our expectation is that if it's kept great, if it's not,
yeah.
that's on you. Now if I walk in there and I can't walk around, I fall down, yeah, we're gonna have a problem. So,
Yeah.
but like in general, it's your room. If you want it to be a mess, okay, but just know you're not gonna be able to find stuff.
Yeah.
You may fall down tripping over stuff in the middle of the night when
Almost
you
like
get
a natural consequences thing.
natural consequences. You are going
Yeah.
to experience the natural consequences of a mess. And when you do, at some point, you're going to go, gosh, I should probably make my room nicer so I don't have this natural consequence. Well, grandma's like, they should have consequences no matter what.
Now. Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
it's a small example, but that is a mismanaged expectation that causes tension in our home.
Mm,
And
mm,
it's a small thing, but when you have people in a close quarters, you're going to have expectations that are mismanaged and mismatched. It
yep.
just is what it is. And I think we can, when we're stressed, then those little things become big things and we blow
Mm,
through the top. Again, we blow through the filter. And so, I think, I'd love to discuss some ways, and that's just one example. I don't know if you have any others, but
yeah.
that's just one example of how anger can spike and what that looks like. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about finding some practical ways to
Yeah.
be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry this holiday season.
Yeah. So like, I thought that was a great way to explain it, and just like that's a normal day thing, and then obviously with holidays coming around, things get a little more dicey
Yeah.
because there's that cousin or there's that aunt or there's that whatever family member that you guys just don't talk throughout the year. You only see them once a year
Yeah.
and you just tolerate their presence, you know? But yet that still is an underlying issue that is just simmering. And it takes
Yeah.
one phrase that they say to slight you, and all of a sudden the gloves are on and then they're off.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think at the end of the day, as believers, whether it's amongst believers or not, we just have to be asking ourselves, well, what do the scriptures say about anger? How do I handle anger with the scriptures? And because God designed us using science, what are practical ways that like psychology and studies have shown us actually work? And they're biblical principles. They're just ways that we can communicate it. So, one of the things is Proverbs 15:1, right? A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stir up anger. So just remembering that and reminding yourself, like, okay, even if somebody says something to me, and I've seen you do it, I've done it in my life where it's just like, okay, like you're being annoying, and I'm just gonna respond gently and just like go about your day. Like we don't got to keep doing this. That's okay. Obviously. Proverbs 16:32, whoever is slow to anger is better than the mighty. Just remembering and reminding yourself, like, being slow to anger is a virtue. It is something that you should be proud of. You shouldn't be saying, I'm being humiliated because I'm being slow to anger.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. Like, and I have to tell you, I had you're gonna laugh at this because for as patient of a man as I am in most areas, and I was for a long time in this area too, and then I feel like it's slipped a little bit the older I get because the older I get, I think there is some entitlement there or something going on that where I'm like, I'm just thinking, why are you on the road
Bro,
if you're going to drive like that?
I knew it.
And
like the one place Jeff is not gentle in how he handles.
And like I have never given anybody the bird like while I'm driving.
But you want to.
I want to. Don't get me wrong. But so I'm not saying like, but I would say road rage is definitely something that like in my younger years, like I think I've shared this.
I could see it. I could see it doing it again.
Bro, I know I shared the story with you. I don't know if I shared on the podcast before, but when I was working for my uncle in Kansas in college, everybody was going so slow. I was trying to get home from work. It was long. I worked long days. I had to go work out, train for football and stuff. And I was like, man, can we just get it moving? And the speed limit was 70. And so everybody's like backed up, and I don't know why. So I'm like weaving in and out of traffic trying to pass all these people. Well, there's a cop, and he was doing 70. And so I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous. And so I set my cruise for 71. And I'm just going to do a slow cruise. So you know how like when you're basically going the same speed as somebody, it takes forever to pass them.
Yeah.
Right? And you're just like, man, when is this ever going to end? It takes me like 30 seconds to pass him. I get a little ahead. Then I get back into the right lane. So now he's right behind me, but I'm like slowly over time, my 71 is going to outpace his 70, and I'll just be able to get clear of him and then speed up. That's my thought process. That sucker pulled me over, man. As soon as I got into his lane, bro, I get over on the side of the road. I barely have stopped the car, and I'm out of it. And I'm at the hood of the police car before he's out of his car.
No way.
Like, he had to think. Blessings to this man, by the way, if you ever listen to this podcast, sir.
Yeah.
Blessings to this man because he handled it so coolly. He gets out and he didn't pull a gun. He didn't pull like a taser. He didn't do anything like that. He just calmly is like, "What? Why are you out of your car?" And I'm like, "Bro, are you kidding me? I'm going 1 mile over." And he's like, "Yeah, were you speeding or not?" I'm like, "By 1 mile an hour, you're holding up traffic, And I was just a dude,
a jerk,
right? I was not a nice guy, and And so like I have always had this kind of road rage like thing that's in me. But again, I got saved and like all that went away. But I have noticed recently I'm just a little more impatient. Well, I'm driving yesterday and again, ton of traffic. I'm in a right-hand turn lane to go right into the target. And and it's backed up. I'm turning right. Well, there's all these cars backed up. Another car was turning left into the target, but I can't see this car. Like there's all these cars. I can't see this car is in the middle of the roadway, and I have the right of way anyway because I'm in a right hand turn lane. And we get up there, and I'm before him, mind you, and I have the right of way. And dude lays on his horn, at me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, immediately, I'm like, who does this joker think he is? Like, and I just lay on the horn right back. Like, bro, get out of the way. I have the right of way here. What are you doing? You're endangering people.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we drive and da da da. And my kids are just quiet. And I'm like, guys, that wasn't the move. That wasn't how you handle that. I lost my cool there, and I shouldn't have. Even though I had the right of way, I didn't need to respond that way.
Just like,
Yeah, that's just quiet, going, "Uh-oh, Dad's mad."
hands folded.
Just waiting for this to play out. But like, it's a perfect example, though, right? Because honestly, it is kind of like down here in Florida. You know this, like snowbird season, we get a lot more traffic. So there's more traffic right now. It was right after school's let out, so there was more traffic than normal. And we're just trying to like, so there is a heightened kind of stress level there. And I like driving, like it doesn't stress me to drive. But it was just interesting. So like I'm when I say that, I'm saying, men, I'm talking to myself in this. When we're talking through these issues, like Alan and I are not saying that we have it
No,
down. Like we have to work on it too.
100%. Yeah, it's one of those things that like the question that we have to ask ourselves is always like what you just said. Is this the move? Like, is this what the Lord has for me? And because I mean, anger. I think I saw it somewhere. Andrew Huberman, he's a neuroscientist. For those that don't know, he talks about how it like here. Let me look it up. All right, so anger releases adrenaline and dopamine, creating a sense of power, clarity, and dominance. When a man feels powerless, anger becomes a quick emotional shortcut to strength. And that's just like, and he wasn't talking about the man piece. That's why I like added to it. But we're then gaining this feeling of power of like, you know what, I could, And you've seen the people that felt like they could, and then they get humbled real quick.
Yeah. Bro,
like they feel angry.
Should have checked. You needed to discern when you could be angry and when you couldn't be based on that other dude.
Yeah.
Because you're not him.
There's this but the reality is that there is a underlying issue there, that anger isn't just like, you're not just angry about the car. There's an underlying issue. You're not just angry about the room being unclean. There's an underlying issue of control, of my way is better than your way, whatever it is. But even then, like, okay, my way is better than your way, but why am I angry? And I'm not saying about your mother-in-law, I'm saying in general, that's how people literally everywhere struggle, is I think this is the best and therefore I'm angry, because then there's biblical anger. Like there's good anger. There's good anger. Slow burn. And that's my thing is this, the idea of being an angry person is different than like having justified anger when it's a justified situation. And so one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves is this biblical anger? If not, then how do I have to address it?
Yeah, there is an anger that's justified. Jesus said, be angry and sin not, right? Like, so and that's what that question about, like, do you get angry about injustice? That's the right kind of anger. When you're angry about injustice in the world, go for it. Like, now obviously don't sin in that anger, but let that anger motivate you to do something about it. For sure. So couple in short podcast, cause Al and I got a hard stop, but, a couple of practical tips, in terms of anger. And these are not rocket science, but maybe you forgot them and you could try to employ them once again. But one would be to take 3 to 5 deep breaths before responding. When we get mad in our house, there's a count to 10 rule. And at any given time, any one of the family members can say, hey, I think you need to count to 10. Right. So, and that's our code word, which is another one of these. Have a code word to kind of signal when things are getting too heated. That's code word for us. Okay, I think do you need to count to 10? That is code by, hey, you're losing it and it's making me feel uncomfortable. Right. And so I need you to like get a hold of your emotions. Or like you're losing it and you're impacting others, you're being selfish, so like let's count to 10 before we respond to that. So we do that, we count to 10, but breathing is a great way. And if anybody's ever done a cold plunge, and Alan, you've done a cold plunge, like the secret to cold plunging is to manage your breath, right? If you can manage your breath, then the cold is, secondary. But for those first 20 seconds or so, it's like, if you're just hyperventilating and you're going to keep hyperventilating, and you're not going to be able to get through that moment. The key is to concentrated breathing. You're breathing from your belly up into your chest and up into your head. There is a method to this. This isn't hocus pocus stuff, Christians, who are saying, oh, that's just Eastern meditation. Well, let me tell you something. Jesus grew up in the East, the Middle East. And he created the body such that we are able to control those releases of hormones. Yep. By deep breathing and getting like that literally calms your nervous system, which is you talk to the chiros of the world, the chiropractors will tell you the nervous system is that is developed in the womb before any of the other systems. And so getting your breathing under control, stepping out of the room temporarily, right? Like just removing yourself from the situation. That's a tip that we can do. Entering gatherings prayed up, right? Like if you know there's going to be tension in a family gathering, man, if you're going in without the armor of God on, you are doing yourself a disservice. And isn't it interesting, Alan, how when you pray for somebody, it's very hard to be angry at them. Right. So I think,
sometimes I'll pray and be like, Lord, I still don't feel good,
but like the odds of you acting out on that anger, decrease dramatically.
What you now have to do is look at them through the lens of God. And if you submit to Jesus, you literally bow out and say, all right, like that's how we handle things here, because you're the boss. And so
I like this one. Remember your mission, right? So like your job is not to win arguments. It's to win people, and win people over for Jesus. So like it's people over process. It's people over, task that we have to do. And so remembering that is a good one. And then this one I really like. I don't know if you like this one or not. Some people might not like it, but lower your expectations. And I have found that is a perfect way to deal with family conflict that could arise in anger. And my brother, going back to like our family dynamic, he is actually just learning this. And it's funny because he would disagree. I think he would say in his heart of hearts, no, you shouldn't lower your expectations. You should like want everybody to have that abundant life. And that is true. I do want that for everybody. And you still got to deal with people where they're at. And so if you're expecting somebody to come in, again, it goes back to expectations, right? If you're expecting someone to be up at a 10 and you know that for the past 30 years, they've been at a 4, like, bro, let's just lower it down. And let's just say if we can get to 4, then we've won the day. And so it's just managing your mindset, managing expectations. Again, it goes back to that managing expectations piece. So
that's good. I think expectations thing, it's probably we haven't framed it enough and had like you're just not discipled into how to do that. Like we disciple people in all these things, but we don't disciple people sometimes in practically how this works on the horizontal level.
Yeah.
And so like teaching people, hey, you can have you can know that the expectations of the gospel for them are to function in this way, while also internally expecting them not to reach that because
Yeah.
of the pattern recognition that you have of their life.
Yeah.
So like, if you can do those and hold those two in tension, then you'll be a lot less frustrated because you're like, I know that the gospel calls them to this. They're not functioning in that, and they haven't for 30 years. They actually refuse to sometimes. So therefore, I'm just not going to expect that of them.
That's right.
And I think that's where we mess up sometimes is we marry the two,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get really angry. I mean, I get annoyed, and then God has to check me and be like, hey, look, like, it is what it is. And Alexis has told me that is that my expectations need to be lowered.
Yeah. It's just it's a good way to manage the environment. And, you have to, on some level, go, is it really worth it, right? When it comes to your family, is it really worth it to make that stand and then like verbalize it and articulate it? And then, I mean, I know a lot of people that they haven't talked in years, you know, and I don't think my wife would mind me saying this, but her family tends to err on the, hey, don't cross me, and if you do, I'm done with
Okay.
you. It's like
Yeah.
that Italian, like, hey,
Yeah.
keep it in the family. Once you decide to go outside of it, like you're dead to me.
Mm.
Um, so like there's some of that I think is honestly just a generational thing, right? Like that
Yeah.
has been passed down in generations, and so it is important to recognize these things. Jesus always had the proper view of humans, right? So
Yeah.
he always knew where a person was at, right? While at the same time, like he wanted you to aspire to a certain level, but he never held that against you. Like
Yeah.
he still always met you where
Go
you
and
were.
sin no more, but he would still treat you with the compassion of where you were at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so he
Yeah.
was skeptical of human nature, but he didn't let that skepticism uh like ruin his interactions with
Guess what,
people.
Jeff? They killed him. But
Newsflash.
but but that should, with our anger and stuff like that and how we deal within the holidays, we're finished after this. Even if you deal with your anger well, like lowering your expectations in general on that, like life isn't all peaches, and it's not all like
Yeah.
everything's gonna be perfect. Everyone's gonna love you because you live like Christ. Like there's gonna be hardship, and that's part of the like accepting what God is putting before you. I
That's right.
think is gonna help.
Yep, that's right.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on this short episode of the Patros Podcast. And I know that we mostly just talked about anger, but it's what we deal with in everyday broken world that we live in. So as you're celebrating Christmas, just remember to lean on the scriptures, listen to this podcast, and make sure that you're engaging with the Holy Spirit and the Word of God and His people in the way that God has asked us to. You got anything before we go, Jeff?
No, just that 48 minutes, that's not exactly a short podcast. So,
Yeah, true. All right. Well, God bless you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Christmas is almost here. Bye.